Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dido and I'm here to talk about the Frost Mage spec. I will try to teach you guys how to squeeze everything from this spec. We're gonna cover basically everything from stats to rotation and everything between. I want you guys to be ready for these challenging modes and soon to be released Highmaul first rate dungeoning Warlords of Draenor. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the talents. As you can see my talents right here, I will go through each tier and talk a little bit about it. Obviously you guys can change around, this is not like the best, but I found this to work the best for me. So on the first level 15 tier, I choose Icy Flows instead of Evidence or whatever it's called. You can see a lot of people actually choosing this one. I still like my ice block quite a lot and I do not want to replace it. Also Icy Flows just gives me a little bit more mobility. There's quite a lot of fights in the heroic, in the challenging modes. I'm not sure about the new dungeon, it could be changed like in these two, but right now Icy Flows just gives me that mobility. You have to run sometimes, running and casting, not losing DPS, it's really good. So I will stick with Icy Flows and I suggest you do that as well for now. On the next year, a lot of people will tell you the must and the only one to choose is Outer Time. I did test that and to be honest I found it to be really good in theory, but in reality I couldn't make it really work. I mean, you have to be insanely good and you have to focus on like when and how to avoid that damage going to you, and I mean using the skill then taking the damage then using back the skill. Yes, on some fights it's really nice, you know, to use the skill, move away from something, then click back and go back to your location, but that's like one or two fights, maybe possibly I can think of one right now. So I stick with Ice Barrier for now. That's a lot of damage reduction. Your healer will be pretty happy if you have this one. I love it. I avoid quite a lot of damage, I mean I reduce quite a lot of damage with it, and I would suggest you to stick with this one for now unless you think you can master Outer of Time, which probably is a little bit better at this point, but it's really hard to master, so I suggest to pick the easier choice here, Ice Barrier, and not worry too much about it. On the next tier, honestly everything is a little bit trashy for raiding, whatever, for dungeoning. I choose Ice Swords. I mean, sometimes, you know, there is loose hats that the tank didn't pick up, put it on you to Frost Nova your target, so you can be safe until the tank picks up the target, and so on. So on this tier I choose this thing. Next tier, by far the best for me is Greater Invisibility. It's instant at, you know, even if you wipe it makes you save some gold, because when you use it the encounter resets. You can of course use it to reduce to remove all the threat, which is insanely good. There's so many situations that you pull the threat from the tank and this will save your ass. So I recommend strongly this, and whoever recommends something else, he's not in his mind, I would even say that. Next year, there is a little bit conversation going about Frost Bomb against Ice Nova. Ice Nova has really good burst, but in the long run Frost Bomb is way better. Yes, you see quite big numbers with the Ice Nova. It does a lot of damage, but Frost Bomb is just better, especially on a single target, for bosses and so on. Next year, the one before the last one, there's just no doubt about choosing the mirror images. They do 6 DPS, especially on single target. For bosses is great, you have it pretty much on every boss. Even between bosses you can like use it on some trash pack if there's more trash between the bosses. Mirror image is great, just for sure pick it over the Rune of Power, which is probably the second best, but it just doesn't give you this mobility that you need, and mirror images just do way too much DPS. Now here is the last one, where to be honest, all three talents are great. Comet Storm a little bit falls behind, but it's still not a bad choice. 30-second cooldown, that's not much, that's quite decent, DPS, especially to a big pack of mobs. Prismatic Crystal, probably the best one of the bunch, but just like Outer Time, well, maybe a little bit less, it's hard to master, and also it's really situational. I find it to be useful in some places. It's insanely useful on trash, where, you know, no one really moves and the trash just sits there and you have like 5-6 mobs and you just hit 40-50k DPS with it. But to be honest, on bosses where you have to move, where the tank has to move, it's really situational. Sometimes in some fights you cannot really fully use it, so you fall behind with it. That's why I found out for now, for the challenging modes and heroics, I don't know what's gonna happen in the raid dungeon, which is coming next week, but for now Thermal Void for me it's great, because Icy Veins, it's great, and when you pop it on the boss, like, I mean, the bosses die so fast right now. With this talent you have the Icy Veins pretty much through the whole boss fight with it. If the DPS of the group is decent, obviously if you go to the challenging modes you will want a good group, not go with like people that doesn't really know what to do. So I prefer Thermal Void right now instead of Prismatic Crystal, although in the perfect world Prismatic Crystal is the better choice. Obviously you can choose the Prismatic Crystal and go for it and enjoy the big numbers and the big damage income, but I think in a long run right now the Thermal Void is a little bit better. So that's gonna sum up the talents, and let's jump to the glyphs. There is like, I don't even use minor glyphs, I don't really care for it, but obviously you need the Ice Lance glyph, that's mandatory. You need another mandatory one, is Icy Veins, really important one. Basically it grants you 30% multi-strike instead of the spell haste. Obviously we know for Frost spec, we're gonna talk a little about it a little bit later, best stat you can have is multi-strike, and you stack multi-strike. Now with this glyph, Icy Veins gives you 30% more, which is great, which is awesome. Beats the hell out of spell haste, especially when you have the time warp, so spell haste is basically useless. Mandatory Icy Veins glyph, put it there. Another nice one, and I choose it to be my third one, is the Water Elemental one. It just makes the Water Elemental more reburst, like more health and stuff like that. Also allows the Water Elemental to move around and cast, which is kinda important. I will talk a little bit more about the Water Elemental when we talk about the skills, but this is the three glyphs that I chose, and you should stick with them too. Let's talk about stats, shall we? So the primary stat for Frost Mages, that's intellect, that's quite obvious. But the first and the most important stat by far for Frost Mages, the enhancement stat, it's actually multi-strike. The second most important, it's actually two of them, and they're quite close together, so theory crafters put them as the same thing basically. It's critical strike and versatility. On third place it's mastery, and fourth place, and pretty useless I would say, it's haste, so you should avoid any haste on your gear. So whenever you look for a gear you should aim for multi-strike and either versatility or critical strike. So let's talk why multi-strike is actually the best stat for the Frost Mages, and it's pretty much because one of the reasons, and main reason, is because Ice Shard. Ice Shard gives you 5% more from all sources to the multi-strike stats. So whatever you have like multi-strike on a, you know, on a gear, it gives you additional 5%. So when you stack like a huge amount of multi-strike, these 5% actually turn out to a pretty good number. Another reason, there's a couple more reasons why multi-strike is the best stat, and I'm gonna tell you exactly them. First of all, Mastery Icicles benefit from multi-strike. Brain Freeze has much higher chance to proc from a frost bolt that had a moody strike than from a normal frost bolt, from the frost bolt that didn't. Which means when you cast the frost bolt, if you don't land the moody strike, you actually have lower chance to proc the Brain Freeze. So when your frost bolt multi strikes, you have higher chance to Brain Freeze, which will give you obviously the instant frost firebolt. And another one, of course, is we talked in the glyph section about that, glyph of Icy Veins, which increases the multi strike by 30%. This is great. You know, the more multi strike you have, this 30% will give you more and more multi strikes, so you end up with sick amount of multi strikes, which means sick amount of damage. And I think that wraps up the stats section of this video. Now I would like to tell you a little bit about the skills that are used in the rotation, so you can understand the rotation a little bit better when we get into it. So first I will start with your water elemental abilities. Freeze, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's a Frost Nova, which when it's cast into a target that it's not immune to freeze, actually gives you Fingers of Frost proc, which is obviously the most important thing right here in this rotation. Obviously all bosses are immune to this, and small amount of the trash in the dungeons, but mostly it's great for trash. It's insanely fast way to deal burst sick with damage. The second ability, which comes actually by default on autocast, you have to remove that right away if you didn't already. It's Water Jet. What Water Jet does, it channels jet of icy water that does whatever amount of damage which you don't really care about. The most important part is while this icy water is channeled to the target and you hit your frost bolt on the target, you actually get the Fingers of Frost proc, which means this is your main ability against targets that are immune to freeze, and it's your main ability against bosses. So what you want to do, actually there's a little trick. If you cast Water Jet and Frost Bolt at the same time, you're not gonna get two Fingers of Frost procs, because the Water Jet is actually channeled less time than you're gonna the time you need to cast the two Frost Bolts. So what you want to do, I'm gonna show you right now. You're gonna see it of course in the rotation, but right now I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show it to you too. You're gonna start the Frost Bolt, and midway you're gonna click that that Water Jet. I forgot to click my second time Frost Bolt, but it will give me. I assure you, it's gonna give you. I did it anyway. But this is the way you wanna do it. So you cast your Frost Bolt, midway you cast the Water Jet, and you get the two Fingers of Frost abilities. Now let's move to the two important passives in the spellbook that we have. Brain Freeze, which gives you the Frost Fire Bolt instant cast. You never want to cast. We may as well talk about the Frost Bolt. Frostfire bolt right now. You never cast the Frostfire bolt. You only use it when you have the Brain Freeze proc. You actually can proc up to 2 times the Brain Freeze. I usually don't use it right away when I have the first proc, because of a lot of the boss fights in the heroics right now and challenging modes. You actually have to move from shit. So usually I keep 1, and if I have 2, then I use it. But I keep 1, and if I have to move, instead of like not doing anything, I use my Brain Freeze proc, aka like, you know, the Frostfire proc, and I use my instant Frostfire bolt while jumping to some safe place to avoid the damage. So don't use it when you have 1 charge, use it when you have the 2. It gives you a little bit, you know, more mobility when you want to move and still keep doing that damage. The second one is Fingers of Frost, which is the main thing right here. It gives you 100% damage increase to Ice Lance, and we're gonna talk about Ice Lance right now. You don't want to cast Ice Lance unless you have Fingers of Frost proc and you have Frost Bump on your target. So never cast Ice Lance without these two. Of course, there's some rare situation where you have to kite, the tank didn't pick up the target, you only can, you know, you can only only kite, and instead of not doing anything, you can as well, you know, you may as well just spam the ice lance, but this is the only situation you can do that. Let's move to the Frostbow. This is pretty self-explanatory. Actually, it's one of the worst DPS skills in the game, but it can proc the the Fingers of Frost, and this is the only ability we can use. Damage is pretty low, to be honest, and this is the boring part of this build. After you blow all your cooldowns at the start, then you start spamming the Frostbow. This is the boring part, and this is where you hope and pray for some procs so you can increase your damage, because actually the spam Frostbow part of this build is letting you really down. When you don't have the procs, you just suck. So this is a little bit, that's why I don't like the build. It's a little bit luck based, so to say. Let's move to another ability that is crucial. This is the Frost Bomb. Like I said, you don't cast the Ice Lance without Frost Bomb. Frost Bomb basically gives your Ice Lance AoE ability. You deal extra damage to your target, and you deal damage to all enemies 10 yards from the target. So that's it, pretty much, pretty self-explanatory. Another main ability, this is the Frozen Orb. Unfortunately has 1 minute cooldown. It's great ability. I'm gonna show you right now. I'm gonna give you a quick tip: don't cast it from too far away, because you're gonna lose time and you lose damage and chance to get more procs. Don't use it when you're too close, because the Frozen Orb will just pass the target too fast and you're gonna lose DPS again. So cast it from like medium range, like, I don't know, what is that, 15 yards or something. Just cast it from here. The tooltip says, like, when the Frozen Orb hits the target for the first time, it gives you the Fingers of Frost passive, you know, proc. But actually I found out that when it stays near the target or near the targets and spins there and does the damage, actually your Fingers of Frost proc just keeps procking like mad, and you do insane amount of damage. I don't know if this is intended or it's bugged or what's going on. I'm not gonna complain, because this is just way too fun, and you can hit 40-50k DPS for a little while. So I think these are pretty much the main abilities you're gonna use. We can as well talk about your buffs. This is the mirror images. Obviously the cooldown buff is insane amount of damage. Icy Veins and Time Warp, which is pretty much Blood Wasp for mages, the mage edition of it. I usually use these three together after I get the first two Fingers of Frost procs. So you're gonna see that in the next section, which is the rotation section. I'm gonna show you couple boss fights and couple trash fights, so you can get the hang out of it. It's pretty simple and a little bit luck based, but it's fun. It gets boring when you start spamming the Frostbolt, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's it pretty much for the skills explanation. So let's see the action right now and how actually the rotation works. As you see, the fight starts right away. I'm using the Water Jet from my Water Elemental ability. I cast 2 Frost Bolts, I got 2 Frost Fingers. I cast the Frozen Orb. I use all my cooldowns and then just start spamming and keep on rolling. I use the Frozen Orb right away, as close as you are to the target itself, is better, because the travel time of the Frost Orb is actually smaller. And now you just keep rolling and repeating everything. Basically, the one rule you need to know is Ice Lance you cast only when you have Fingers of Frost and you have Frozen or not Frozen or Frozen Bomb. Excuse me, Frozen Bomb on the target. So Ice Lance you cast only when you have Frost Fingers and you have Frost Bomb on the target. Brain Freeze, the instant Frost Firebolt, obviously use whenever you can. It's great to use when you have to move from something, so I try to keep it around. Other than that, you use Frozen Orb on cooldown and spam Frostbolt pretty much the rest of the time. So this is it. And this is a different boss fight. I will be showing you exactly the same thing once again. You will see me cast that Frostbolt midway of the casting. I'm gonna use the water jet from my water elemental, cast that second Frostbolt that will give me 2 fingers of frost. I will pop out all my cooldowns, start spamming this ice lance twice to use my frost fingers. Then I'm gonna use the frozen orb so I can get this frost fingers procs once more and keep spamming the Frostbolt, hoping for procs. As you see, I proc twice. I dropped the frost bomb, which I have to recast again. You don't want to keep the frost bomb full time on your target. You need to have either 2 fingers of frost procs or a water jet or a frozen orb coming off cooldown. This is the stuff you have to watch for it. Don't waste time keeping the frozen bomb on your target full time. And now you see the boring part of this of the spec, spamming the Frostbolt and hoping for procs. This doesn't really happen for me right here. Luckily, water jet is back on. I use it. I got the 2 fingers of frost. I recast frozen bump on the target. 2 ice lance give me a good damage boost, and now I'm stick with the Frostbolt spam once again. I see frozen orb off cooldown. Once again, you see instantly I got 2 fingers of frost. Another one that's a little bit lucky. A big DPS boost for me, and this is pretty much the end of the fight. I see the wall of retards is coming, so we have to deal with that one. I see another brain freeze, use it right away. And this is pretty much, I mean, it's a pretty simple build, pretty fun. It could be pretty fun, it could be pretty boring, but that's it. So yeah. So this is gonna be the trash rotation, which is a little bit different. You see I open with the Frostbolt, which is not really needed, but I like to open with the Frostbolt at least until the tank gets the target. And you can see this time I use the freeze target, which gives me instant 2 fingers of frost procs. I keep my frozen bomb on the target and use the frozen orb to get these fingers of frost fingers of frost procs, and just keep spamming the ice lance. You can see the sick amount of DPS you can do on a trash pack. It's really fun, it's really simple and pretty straightforward. So yeah, this is pretty much. I'm gonna show you another one. Another example of a trash fight. You can see I open with the Frostbolt again, just to give that little time for the tank to get the thread going, because I'm gonna do a sick amount of DPS. Pretty much the same thing. Again, I use the freeze ability of my water elemental, which gives me the 2 instant casts right away, 2 fingers of frost procs, and I use my frozen orb and just keep that frost bomb on the target and spam the ice lance. You can see the sick amount of DPS I'm doing. This is pretty much for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I've been helpful. If you like the video, like it. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike the video, disliked it. Please subscribe. I will bring you more videos. And that's it. Bye bye.